you can have more than one passion. And I luckily found that in multifamily investing. It wasn't just only the money. So I think that's the key thing that you're touching on here, Whitney, is that you have to love what you do. And when you love it, it just radiates outward.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest, she's going to help you to ditch that 9-to-5 job with multifamily investing and show you exactly how she did that. Some key things that our guest today, Pam Scamardo, is going to share that you need to know if you are looking to leave your job and go into real estate investing in some capacity. She's the founder of the C.R.E.A.T.E Wealth Network, the #1 free educational resource for commercial real estate investing and turnkey properties, a privately held multifamily investment company that acquires, manages, and renovates medium to large size apartment complexes. She's an emerging author focusing on sharing her commercial real estate investing knowledge with others. She has a new book coming out called Create Wealth, How You Can Ditch the 9-to-5 Job with Multifamily Investing. Pam's going to share many things with you today. I know you're going to learn a lot. Pam, welcome back to the show. Honored to have you back. Honored to connect again. I know you said, I think it's been 1.5 to 2 years. And so looking forward to hearing, man, what's happened, right, since then. But I want to let the listeners hear a little more about who you are, right? And we're going to talk about how you got where you're at, because I think they're going to learn a lot from you today. And so give us a little more about who Pam is, and let's dive in.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Whitney. It's so good to see you again. I love that we're connecting coast to coast here. So everyone in between, you all can hear us, and hopefully my story can resonate with many of you. So who is Pam? Well, Pam is a former aerospace engineer, stumbled my way into multifamily investing quite truly. I was at that time looking for a way to find financial freedom. I didn't know that's what it was called then, but I realized I did not want to sit in my cubicle staring at, I think I had 4 monitor screens at that time, analyzing aircraft parts. Didn't want to sit there for the rest of my life. Wanted to eventually have a family and, be home and be a wife, be a mom, and kind of travel when I wanted to travel in my way, so to speak. So that's kind of how I stumbled into it. I used to go read a lot of books at Borders. Now it's, bankrupt or closed, whatever it is, but it's like a Barnes and Nobles. And one of the books that basically changed my life is called Commercial Real Estate Investing for Dummies by Peter Harris and Peter Conti. And Peter Harris he was my former mentor. What I did was I unconventionally, probably ran after him. Back then, the internet wasn't as prominent as now. So I sent him letters. I tried to call him, everything. And I just said, hey, please, 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 will you mentor me? And he took a leap of faith with me. And basically the rest is history. He helped me buy my first property. And since then, I had my own business. And I never dreamed of this. It just kind of spiraled in a good way. So let me knock on wood here. It's been about 10 years now. I was able to quit my full-time engineering job in 2.5 years. And since then, we've been growing the business, acquiring only multifamily properties, because that's my jam, and now focused on giving back. So helping college students. I volunteer heavily with C.R.E.A.T.E Network as one of the board directors. So C.R.E.A.T.E Network stands for Commercial Real Estate for Women, basically helping with volunteering, leadership development, and all that fun stuff. And fast forward to today, Whitney, thanks for having me on, but we're going to be publishing a book this fall, October 15th on Amazon, on my journey and how you can achieve that too.
Awesome. Well, there's so many things there I want to ask you about. And being a former aerospace engineer, and I always highlight this because I think it's important, because I hear this challenge all the time by listeners and just people in my network. It's like, well, wait a minute, I've spent all these years, all this money, all this time learning, studying, becoming the aerospace engineer or whatever, the equivalent doctor or whatever type of engineer, right? It just didn't happen easily, right? To get there. Typically, I have family members who are saying, now, Pam, what? All this time, right? All this money, or, they're really struggling, right? With this thing you're deciding to do, wondering, is this really going to happen? Is she lost her mind? Most likely, speak to that a little bit, right? Speak to the listener who's contemplating the same thing. Maybe they're thinking about, hey, I want to get out of my cubicle as well. Well, how do I talk to my family about that? Or maybe even my spouse? What does that look like as I'm thinking, hey, we could have more, right? I could have more freedom. I could do these things, but it's an uncomfortable place for many people.
Absolutely. You're right, Whitney. Let me rewind my brain back all the way there. And yes, it was a scary time for me. And to be quite honest, you nailed it right there. Usually, when you kind of embark on this journey, your closest circle, usually they're not as supportive. They're more kind of like, what is going on with your brain? Especially when you have, a cush job, so to speak, good salary, or maybe, you've trained, like you said, almost all your life to be a scientist, to be a doctor, to be whatever. I think the magic ingredient in that is the passion. What I realized was, yes, I love aerospace engineering, still do today. As a matter of fact, we'll be volunteering very soon at the Air and Space Museum in San Diego to help kind of rebuild model kit airplanes. So that still gets my technical brain going with some of the old colleagues I used to work with. But what I realized was that you can have more than one passion. And I luckily found that in multifamily investing. It wasn't just only the money. So I think that's the key thing that you're touching on here, Whitney, is that you have to love what you do. And when you love it, it just radiates outward. And yes, there's going to be days where you don't want to fill paperwork or, do some of the menial tasks. But overall, if you have that passion and you found it, life is just so much beautiful. And so I do recall how hard it was because I remember feeling in my heart, which was not logical because you're probably aware of this. Us engineers are very, by the book, formulas and things need to make sense analytically. Well, this was like off the charts, right? So it was hard for me to even come to terms with that. But when I asked myself in my heart, do I love this? Am I starting to embrace this type of journey? It was an absolute resounding yes. So when I talked to my parents about it, they were very pissed off, to be quite honest, because obviously it was all their hard-earned money. I'm a product of immigrant parents. So they worked multiple low-income jobs just to get me to scrape by into college. So there was a lot of that guilt hanging on me. And I said, Mom and Dad, let me try for at least 1 or 2 years. And if I do stumble and fail, at least I know I can go back to engineering. So that was kind of like the compromise we came to, but it was really rough. And then my friends around me, they just thought I went bat crap crazy, to be honest. So they just said, okay, good luck. Let us know how it goes. So I call them the sideliners, because what's funny is that maybe about 5 years in, they saw that I wasn't turning back around. My business exploded in a good way. And so now most of them are investors with me. And they're now believing in it too. So for those who are thinking about it, just do an emotional check. This is probably one of the first few chapters in my book that's coming out as well. It's just kind of be introspective. Is this what you really want? Because if you're only going after it for money, I can tell you that that's going to be a difficult path. You have to love what you do. And so under investing in general, you guys can invest in different types of properties and assets. For me, I found multifamily, absolutely love it. But within multifamily, and Whitney, you can probably attest to this, there's multiple assets within that too. You've got Class A, Class B, Class C, whether it's brand new property or if you like to rehab. So there's an abundance and a variety of ways to invest if that's truly what you love. So I think that's really what it is right there. That is such a good question that no one has really asked before.
I appreciate your transparency around, hey, your parents were beside themselves, right? And really, they worked so hard to pay for the college, right? And I can understand, man, really? Pam, what do I can just hear that, right? And I know we received some of that as well. It's like, really, Whitney? Yeah, it's what are you thinking,
Yeah.
And we had to make some very big moves to make it happen. I know people thought we were crazy, and I was okay with that, right? I knew.
And you went through the same thing, it sounds like.
I knew we had to do that, right? If we wanted something different than what everybody else had, we had to do something different, right?
You have to change the way you do it, right? Oh, and I forgot to mention, you'd asked about spousal support as well. Yes. And I think that's really important, whether you're married or if you have a long-term partner. For me at the time, I was around, this is going to date me, 27, 28, I think, when I started. And so I wasn't married yet, but I started thinking, because, women, we have our biological clocks. And I was like, oh, I want, kids in the future. I was dating my boyfriend then, who became my husband. But I remember telling him this, and I don't know if this is the right way for everyone, but this is what Pam did. I said, hey, boyfriend, this train is going this way. Either hop on board or not. It's going to go. So be true to yourself is what I'm telling people. And if they are going to support you, they will show that. But yes, there are some that don't, because I do have clients who I've mentored or kind of just help them out and consult. It makes it harder when the spouse isn't supportive, but perhaps what you two can do is sit down and talk about, hey, this is the long-term goal. We're going to get there. Give me X amount of time to try to get to that point, and then let's reassess. So that gives you both time to like work out a game plan versus having to like explode or part ways in a sense. So that's kind of my little nugget of advice. For me, I wasn't married then, so it was a little easier. So I didn't have to say, oh my gosh, we have to compromise, or we had kids. But I do know that some people are not in that position. And so that might take a little bit of longer of discussing it, coming to terms that work best for you and your partner, because most likely your spouse will have to support your endeavors in the beginning. But I can tell you this, guys, at least from my engineering side, after I was able to quit my full-time job in 2.5 years, the income more than surpassed my engineering salary. And I was able to show my parents that. But obviously my parents couldn't see it at the time. And I truly feel for them, because they are the survival generation. You know, as immigrants, parents come in here and they're like, oh my gosh, we did all this. And then you just blew it out of the water. But now they're semi okay with it.
Yeah, I appreciate you talking earlier too about sharing your passion, right? And as you do that with your spouse, I hope that they see, right, you're passionate about this thing. And then hopefully, they're going to have questions, and you're going to have to help educate them too. Potentially, you talked about reading that book. Well, maybe parts of that book you share with them, right? So they can start learning as well. I also liked how you said, what, let's give it 2 years, right? Or let's give it 3 years or however long, let's reassess. And then it doesn't seem so like in concrete either, right? Or maybe even an option like you mentioned, hey, parents or spouse, I still have the engineering degree. It doesn't mean if this was a major flop, I could always go back.
Exactly.
Right. But if I don't try, it's definitely not going to happen.
Exactly. And I've seen it happen too, where some of my engineering buddies kind of left the engineering company around the same time I did, and some have made it back because we all chose different paths. I can give you a prime example. One of my buddies to this day, he was really focused on flipping at that time, but then the market kind of didn't work out in his favor, but he had to go back. But did he stop though? No, he went back. Now he's back out again doing his entrepreneurial stuff. So just want to let everyone know there's a different way to do different things, but don't give up if that's your true passion. He just had to go back, kind of like recoup capital, pay off things. And then now he's back at it again, doing what he likes. He doesn't like what I do. He's not a long-term hold person. I'm like, you do you, I'll do me.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting too, how you seeked out Peter for a mentor. Like you read this book. How did you do that? And maybe give a couple of things about how you reached out to him, because I think it says a lot about your passion for it, right? And how you were diligent to reach out to him, and how you did that and seek mentorship. Was it just because he was the author? Were there other things that you were looking for in a mentor that maybe you thought that, he had? How did that work out a little bit? Give us some details so the listeners can find that mentor also.
Sure. And that's also something I share in the book too. So I'm excited about it. So you guys are going to get a sneak peek of what's in one of the chapters on mentorship in general. So for me at that time, I started attending like local real estate investing clubs. And like I said, Whitney, back then, it was not as easy to find local real estate investing clubs. You couldn't just go to Google and say, hey, let's do this. And then like Meetup would show up or whatever. Nowadays, it's so much easier where you can connect virtually. But for the few that I found, I always took some time after work to go attend. So I would check out different local clubs just to see what they were all about, to learn kind of all the different types of investing with properties, right? So I remember attending a seminar about this guy. He was the guru of mobile home parks. That was his jam. And then another one I attended was about multifamily investing. And that's when my ears kind of perked up. I was like, ooh, this sounds like fun, because I've always lived in apartments. And I remember of observing how, unfortunately, my parents, being that they were immigrants, they couldn't speak English that well. They were unfortunately taken advantage of in that regard, of just when we used to rent apartments. And sometimes we weren't treated well. So, my thought process was like, I want to eradicate all the slumlords out there. That's just how I work. So it kind of spoke to me. And then when I found the book that was written by the two authors, the reason why I chose Peter Harris was because he used to be an engineer as well. So it felt like he was talking my language, because we are a different breed, if you will. Like we just kind of think a little weird or differently. So I just connected with his words. I can tell the parts that he wrote, if you will, because they're 50-50 coming in together. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, this is the person that I would love to just learn from, because he speaks my language. He understands the struggles. And so I don't know, it was a calling. But before that, though, I want everyone to know that it wasn't just like bada bing, bada boom, here you go. It was a lot of exploring and searching, attending seminars, workshops, basically finding the right fit for you. So if there's one thing that I can impart here for the listeners is that you have to find the right fit. We're not everyone's cup of tea. I know I might not be everyone's cup of tea. Same thing with Whitney, but you have to go out there and search. And so that's how I found Peter. If I had just sat at home wishing I had a mentor and did nothing about it, obviously wouldn't get anywhere. So that's kind of how my journey went. I didn't know I needed a mentor until I started learning more, exploring more. It's like learning a new language. And then I thought, well, how can I accelerate my path faster? Because I'm nearing 30 and I want to have children. And that was also another motivating factor to get a mentor who is going to be like a high quality teacher to me. And the first thing I ever learned from Peter was your mindset is the most important thing, which is really hard, right? And Whitney, I'm sure you can attest to that too, because you're like, oh my gosh, is this going to work? Can we do this? No one believes in us. What are we going to do? So it was a lot of that. And he said that 90% is really that. The rest is technical that you can kind of learn and do. And then he said, one day, Pam, when you're ready and you're financially free, you're going to want to give back like what I'm doing too. And I said, haha, you're crazy. I can barely buy a property right now. But look at this, 10 years down the line, and he's so right. So that's a quality of a good mentor, is to see the potential that you can't even see in yourself at the time. So I'm forever grateful to Peter Harris for that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And just how you seeked him out, how you did that. And it wasn't easy, right? It wasn't just like you found a mentor and then it was like, boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden, I can leave my job, right? It still took a ton of work. And I want to jump into that because you said you left your job. I think you said 2.5 years later.
Mm-hmm.
How did you do that? What were some of the things that, had to happen for you to be able to do that during that process? And let's dive in there.
Yeah. So the first thing was, I was exploring real estate investing. I was like, okay, I like this. I don't like stocks. I don't like other stuff to invest for, to retire early. So I found a mentor. That was the next step because I wanted to accelerate my path. So when I found Peter, start working with him, then I think this is where you and I, we have a common theme here. And a lot of us who do this is that you have to be that go-getter. You have to push yourself outside your comfort zone and be proactive, because a mentor will teach you, but it's up to you to do the homework to really go after it, right? And that's why I talk at length about passion. You have to have the passion to drive yourself. And so after I got, Peter on board to help mentor me, I was so eager. I spent mornings calling brokers before I went to work at 7:30 a.m. So I would catch the East Coast brokers during my lunch breaks. I would continue to work on real estate investing, whether it's learning, reading a new book, or making calls, trying to find properties. And then in the evening when I got home, this is where you have to start picking and choosing your, events. Like I would turn down social engagements and I'd say, hey guys, right now I'm trying to focus on my side hustle here. I'm not going to be around a while. That doesn't mean I don't love you guys. Thank you for inviting me or whatnot. I told my family and friends of like, I might not be around a lot right now, but it's because I'm focused on this. I need to launch this off the ground. I need to find my first property. So I was like a dog to a bone, basically, until I could get my first property. So I spent my waking hours on real estate investing, learning the craft and searching properties left and right. And gosh, I cannot tell you how many I looked at till I found my first one. Was it like in the order of like almost 400 and above, like listings, calling and everything till I got my first property. So when you can almost like taste it, it pushes you even further, right, guys? And then when you get your first one, I guarantee you, it's not going to get like that much easier because you're going to want something bigger or you're going to want something different. And every property is different, but you get so excited because you're like, I did it. Now I can try again and learn some more. I'm going to stumble and fall along the way. So that's something everyone needs to kind of, embrace and come to terms with. Nothing is going to be perfect. And I think a lot of stories out there, everyone's talking about the perfect success story and all of that. But really, like you said, Whitney, the becoming of it is what really is the hardest part. It's all the rejection, the drop calls, or the escrows that didn't pan out, falling out of escrow, things like that, and negotiating, which is also hard. So it was a lot of hard work during my waking hours, so to speak.
Appreciate your transparency around even having to tell the family or friends, hey, I'm going to be probably disconnected for a bit, right? As I push through this. When did you know it was time to leave the JOB?
Ooh, yeah, I was so excited. So after I bought my first property, I already had analyzed it, right? Because by then, you guys, if you had bought your property, you would have done some good due diligence on it. So us engineering nerds, we live by and breathe by Excel spreadsheets. So I remember calculating the numbers and I was like, oh my gosh, this is my cash flow. Okay, so if I buy another one, what's it going to be like? So when you see that the potential, you start game planning. So for me, I thought, okay, I can do this with maybe 2 or 3 more properties and I can meet my monthly expenses and more because you have to plan for that as well, right? So for me, I love like drinking Starbucks almost every day. So I budgeted that in at what, $5 a cup a day or something. I want to live that life. I don't want to have to live under my means so much. That was kind of my goals. So I just kind of started planning the numbers and I had like my all up number that I needed to meet. And so I gave myself time. I said, hey, Pam, why don't you like set a goal to accomplish this in 5 years? Okay, that was my goal initially. I was like, I'm going to do this in 5 years. Well, as luck would have it, when you have passion and you're like going after it and probably a sprinkle of luck and timing and, just everything, I was able to do it in 2 years? So yeah, I don't know the blueprint to that. I think it's just a matter of like planning and continuing to look and not settling, leaving no stone unturned. And so by the time I reached my 3rd property purchase, I knew I had already like surpassed my salary. And so then it was the next decision of like, well, I have this cush job too. So do I keep it and also do the hustle so I can grow faster? But I thought, no, freedom is worth it. And I thought, worst case, right, Whitney? I go back to it if I needed more money. So I thought, I'll never know if I don't cut the cord. So
did your real estate business speed up or slow down when you left the JOB?
It actually went up. Surprisingly, right? Because the biggest fear for us is like, oh crap, what if it stays the same and goes down?
Right.
All that fear, right? You got to learn to work with that fear. But when I decided, I was like, okay, I don't have to wait till 5 years. I can quit in like 2 years now. So I decided to quit on my birthday, which is easier to remember. So I made it a goal. I put it in my Outlook planner and everything. And it was always reminding me every day that like by year 2 on my birthday, I'm going to send that letter of resignation in and I'm going to, skip out of the office and be free, so to speak.
Wow. Congratulations.
So it's something to work to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's incredible. What kind of properties were you buying and what are you looking for?
Oh, yes. So my first property was like a Class C property. It was 6 units. It's my baby still to this day because it serves as a reminder of where I started. Actually, my team was trying to have me get rid of it last year because you know how the market is, right? So I did put it on the market and I was like, no, guys, I'm sorry. My heart says no, we're keeping this, but it's like the smallest one. But that's what started off for me. One of the units was completely gutted. I'm a hands-on person, or like, my engineering brain gets excited about that. So I wasn't scared of it. So we did rehab. It was Class C, 6 units in San Diego, still there to this day. And then I just challenged myself each year, buy something that's like just 1 unit bigger than the previous. Because I went a little easy on myself. I was like, Pam might get lazy. Who knows, right? So let's just do 1 unit bigger than the other one. So after 6 units, then was 8, then 10. So I just kept going from there. So it gets exciting. And obviously I made mistakes along the way, which, I don't recommend for anyone thinking of, if you want to go this route, the commercial real estate multifamily investing route where it's 5 units and above, don't go back under. I did that once and it was not worth it. During my time, I went back to 4 units and oh my gosh, that was one of the failures. I was like, no, not going to do that again.
If you could talk to Pam when she was reading that book, you're in that cubicle and you're having those thoughts and you're reading that, or maybe you've not even started reading that book yet. What do you wish you knew then, or what would you tell her?
I would tell her to shove that fear in the closet. You're going to have to learn to live with it, but you don't need to open the door to feed it, if you will. Does that make sense? That fear will always be with you because we are a human species after all. Otherwise, how did we survive, right? To grow as a population. But you can learn to work with it and make educated guesses. So go out and get the education you need. But at some point, you're going to have to take a leap of faith. Nothing will be perfect. And that's really a good question, actually, because it was a couple months back, I went to a networking event and bumped into the same couple that my husband and I saw 8 years ago, starting off the same time. And here's the sad part. Unfortunately, they still haven't taken a step forward. They're still attending all of that. So at some point, you guys, don't be doing it for 8 years and say, hey, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Just do it. I mean, jump into it. Don't wait 8 years is all I'm saying, because you won't know the potential. So if I can go back to little old Pam back then, I would tell her that the grass is greener on the other side, to treat people with kindness, to have compassion, and your business will grow in ways that you've never known. But if you go the other route where it's just all about money, I don't recommend that part. No. So have passion, have love, and spread that kindness. And I think that's been kind of the way I operate my properties and all the communities. We're making small changes in that way. And also because, like I said, I want to eradicate all the slumlords.
Yeah, I think when you are solely focused on your own personal financial gain, it shows. I think your investors know that, or, they see that, you're not thinking about your tenants or anything like that. I just think it shows, and people want to be a part of something that's bigger than just financial gain, right? Whether they know it or not, they do.
Exactly. Your integrity shows, right? And I think that's really important. And that's why I often tell people who ask me, well, how do you know who to invest with and all this and that? I always say, listen to your moral compass, which is pretty much where your heart is. If your gut feel says, I don't know, you better listen to that. Even if your brain says, wow, everything checks all the boxes, right? And that's often hard to do because you never know until you take that leap of faith. So don't beat yourself up if you made some mistakes and met some friends who weren't friends, but at least you lived and you learned. That's the most important thing. What did you learn from that you won't do again? And that's the most important part, is to not give up.
Pam, what's your best source for meeting new investors right now?
My best source. You know what's crazy, Whitney? Ever since the pandemic, and when I started talking with you, I'm not a big fan of social media, but it works. My team has done an amazing job. So I want to say almost like 90% comes from Instagram and LinkedIn, connecting with me and my team. I never thought it would be this way because I'm a in-person, I'm the type that I would like to break bread with you first to know if we can really work together. We do get to that point, but it's a new age. So that is probably the best way that I've been meeting potential investors. And then through networking everywhere. I've met investors from my yoga class before the studio was shut down. And I wasn't even there thinking about investing. Does that make sense? It was just like you see each other all the time. You're like, hey, how's it going? Then after a while, it's like, well, what do you do? And what do you do? Why are you here at this time every day? And you talk and get along. Then it's like, oh, I have, I have this, I have these goals. Can we work together? And it's so amazing when you get to see that you make a difference in people's lives. I think that's the most fulfilling part for me.
Give us maybe one technique that you use on LinkedIn to meet those people.
So I like to post about my whereabouts in regards to my volunteering. So that's how some people reach out to me, because I do travel a lot. So right now I'm rolling off the C.R.E.A.T.E network board as a board director. So we have over 12,000 members or more globally. I'm kind of like the ambassador and oversee the Pacific Northwest chapters. So I'm usually in Portland, Seattle. I was in Boise or Canada, Vancouver. So I'll post about that just to share and help others with their business as well. And then it's kind of like it comes back at you 10 times more, because usually I'll be posting about some of the women in the chapters of like, hey, if you're in Vancouver, this person does this person does that, reach out to them for that. But then indirectly, the connections just help. And then they reach out to me of like, hey, I saw you were here and you do this. Can you tell me more about it? So yeah, I don't know how that all works, but I'm thankful for it.
That's a great example. What are some of the most important metrics that you track? And that could be personally, professionally, it could be about a deal, it could be about morning habits, anything.
Ooh, that's all over the board, huh? Let me start on the personal side first. For me, my personal metrics is every day I meditate, actually. And it doesn't have to be anything formal. These days it's a little like mainstream about meditation and you have to listen to this. No, it's just you silencing yourself in a sense, or just coming into yourself and to have some clarity and peace in your heart. So sometimes I'll meditate while showering because that's when I'm the most peaceful and relaxed. Sometimes, like this morning, I knew I had an interview. So I woke up early, sat outside, observed the birds kind of just flying around, just closed my eyes for a good minute. And the way I measure that is I've noticed throughout the day, I have more space and more room in my heart to kind of weather other people. Maybe they're having a bad day, so to speak, or maybe my children want to test my patience in parenthood, because some days I really suck at that. And so it gives me the space to really like, okay, I'm going to take a step back and then I can handle this. And this carries forward into how I handle my business as well. I've noticed that sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment, so to speak, of like trying to negotiate something, I realize when I meditate, it helps me try to find the best win-win scenario for everyone at that table, at that decision-making table. It doesn't always work, but at least it gives me the patience and the wherewithal to really have some clarity. And on top of that, I think what makes me feel like I've accomplished something, I'll show you this really quickly. I know no one can really see it, but I'm talking out loud with you. I guess this is my measure, my metrics of it's working. This was a card sent to me during the pandemic. My tenants don't know me personally. They know my management team. We were boots to the ground, handing out, the protective stuff that we could afford to buy. And I asked our investors to, hey guys, can I have a reserve? Because we don't know what the pandemic's going to do. Can we just set aside some reserves where you guys don't get as much cash flow these next few months? And I really want to spend time to buy safety equipment, buy iPads for their kids who can't go to school right now, but don't even have an iPad at home to connect with their classmates or schoolwork. And maybe throw them like an outdoor, socially distanced barbecue or something, just to really bring up the morale. So one of the properties, they got a card and it says like, thanks from the whole bunch. And each unit wrote something really nice to the property management team. And so they mailed it to me. And it's this, I have it at my desk and it reminds me every day of what I do and why I do it. It fills my heart with so much joy that we are making a difference in some of the people's lives. Another example would be this older couple. Unfortunately, they passed due to COVID, but I remember that they asked us if they could just plant a mini garden in front of their home because we already had landscaping. And usually, when you have things designed, you don't let people kind of mess around with whatever your landscaping is. But I remember my property manager asking me like, hey, Pam, well, they're in their 80s. Could we? And I thought, sure, why not? I mean, it's just plants. It's not like they're going to do it across everywhere. And that meant the world to them. Every day they were there. So it's things like that. It's the small things in life, Whitney. So that's like kind of a measure of happiness for me that we're doing well. Obviously, the normal measure of analytics is like, okay, how is the cash flow churning and all that stuff? That's part of the norm of the business. But for me, it's if I'm feeling happy doing it, then I know it's the right thing.
I love
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that you share about getting that card. I think that's very rare, by the way, that your tenants or each of them, from a multifamily property, are going to sign something like that and send it to the management company. So that says a lot about your management company. But I even thought about your, the manager or whoever's in charge of that property where the elderly couple was, that they even desired to want to come to you to say, hey, could we do this, and just care for them, for those tenants in that way. I think that says a lot about the culture that you've built there and just the care, right, for the tenants. And I mean, it's good. It's really good. I don't hear stories like that maybe ever. So that's awesome. And you've already shared about this a couple of times, so I always like to ask at the end, how do you like to give back? Anything else you'd like to share on that front?
Yeah. So giving back with my book, if you guys want to support me this fall, please buy my book. And if you like it, great. Give me 5 stars because that would be kind of cool. But if you don't like it, my ask would be just pass it on to someone else or recycle it so we don't hurt the earth. And the other way I'm giving back is that I'm volunteering as the director for the Center for Real Estate at Cal State Fullerton in California. So if you guys are out there, come say hi. Happy to go grab coffee with you if you'd like, if I have time. That's what I'm doing now, is helping students, mentoring students, connecting students with the real estate industry as well to see where they want to go. Some want to be appraisers, some want to be financial analysts. They just want to intern and learn about the world of multifamily. I just want to help connect. And I think that's like my next calling, if you will, Whitney, is just trying to help connect with as many people as possible to help each other kind of grow together, because I feel like we win more together versus going solo. And that's kind of always been Pam's MO. I'm also merging my websites into one big one because I realized I have my syndication one. Then I've got my educational resource platform, which is called Let's Go CreateWealth.com. But it's like all the blogs that I've written about multifamily investing, but I'm just going to merge it under my name so people don't get confused. So coming soon, or maybe it's out now, it's PamScamardo.com. And that's where you go there as your one-stop shop where I can help you. So if you guys are looking to work with Winnie, I can tell you off the bat, he's amazing. Just reach out to him. If you have any questions or you want to talk to me, same thing. You guys just have to find the path that works for you and don't be afraid to stumble.
Pam, how can they get in touch with you? Or if you haven't already, tell them again. And where do they find this book when it comes out?
Yes. So go to pamscamardo.com. My last name is spelled Scamardo. So pamscamardo.com. And then by October 11th, actually, the book will be out on Amazon, and it's called Create Wealth: How You Can Ditch the 9-to-5 Job with Multifamily Investing. And here's the cool part that gets me so happy, Whitney, that I didn't get a chance to tell you. Peter Harris, he wrote the foreword for me. So it's like full circle. I was so honored, but he wrote the foreword for me. So it's coming out October 11th. And then if you guys want to meet me in person, October 15th, I'm teaching a multifamily class in Orange County. So you can reach out to me on my website for more details. And yeah, so it's going to be a 4-hour workshop. I'm bringing in 2 national speakers to help you with. One is like a pro with networking, so she'll give tips on that. The other is a pro with how to basically how to sell yourself without being too salesy. Does that make sense? Because as you can probably attest, Whitney, we have to talk to investors, but we also have to talk to vendors. We also have to talk to everyone. So how do you present yourself in the most authentic way possible? Yeah, without being too fake or pushy when you don't intend to be. So I think those are skills that we can always improve upon.
Thank you so much, Pam. No doubt we can improve on all those skills. I find it's a continual learning process. We just never arrive, right? We have to continue working on those things. So appreciate that. Thank you for letting the listeners reach out to you. Grateful for that as well. We look forward to having you back on the show again soon.
Thanks so much, Whitney. And sorry, I just want to add one thing. You mentioned we are a work in progress. You're so right. So the motto I go with, and this is borrowed from someone else, it's we are WIP till RIP. So we are a work in progress till we rest in peace. So it's so true. But thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us again today. I hope you have liked and subscribed to the show. Please tell your friends about the Real Estate Syndication Show. And I hope that you are learning and growing. Don't forget to go to lifebridgecapital.com where you can start investing today.